If your business offers a product or a service for the more mature group of spenders, message me near on LinkedIn. You can also message me on Facebook or Instagram. I've got pages there, Living One Day Older as well. Today we're going to turn to one of my favorite and many Australian friends. I tend to, here in the US, have a lot of you Australian friends. But I've got Ray Ramsay here, who is in risk management. And Ray also has a podcast. We're going to talk to him about that. He's got a podcast with Samantha Sidwell, and he's got one coming up on the 21st of March. And we're going to turn to Ray right now.
Hey, here I am, yeah.
Okay, first of all, toxicity.
Toxicity, yes.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I guess my swimming today just kind of had that word just float right out of me.
It's actually worked out very well. As you mentioned, I'm a risk management professional, but my subject matter area is actually toxic workplaces. I'm a behavioural psychologist. And the podcast I got coming up in the next few days, on the next week or so, and it'll be a monthly thing going forward with my partner in crime in Quebec, Sam Stillwell. Sam's an anthropologist, and so so she does anthropology, so she's very used to looking at how people react to one another and cultures and all that kind of thing. And it ties in well with what I do on the behavioural psychology. So we're kind of like a little team looking at toxicity in the workplace. And our first podcast on the 21st US time is about the genesis of toxicity and where it will lead an organisation.
Yeah, and everybody, you can find Ray Ramsay and hear what he has to say on LinkedIn, and he's got his event up on his page right now for March 21st, Eastern Standard Time. You can check that out more by just going to his page, Ray Ramsay. So, Ray, what's your mission of being a terminator of toxic terminator? I love that term, by the way.
Yeah.
I love it. What's your mission?
Well, as you know, mine started probably 5 or 6 years ago when one of my work colleagues committed suicide because of how much stress he was under in the workplace. And my goal essentially from that day was to make sure that never happened again. And this was a young guy, and his life was just starting out. He was in his late 20s when he threw himself under a train. And I never wanted anyone else or any other family to go through that particular situation. So that was one of my main drivers to do this. But once I did my psychology degree, and I started to look at how people actually start to do things and how they think. And I came to the conclusion that people are fundamentally lazy and they're going to look for shortcuts.
The brain does that, doesn't it, Ray?
Yeah, and it's about conditioning.
Yeah.
And how habits are formed.
Yeah.
And it's an environmental pressure that starts from a young age. So it's how you're brought up.
Yeah, Descartes, the philosopher, he's got what I think, therefore I am. And really, you think, then you believe, and then with that you get an attitude, and then with that you get a personality, and you can break that. You don't have to I think, therefore I am. You can break away from that I am part and become somebody else.
For sure.
Yeah, it's the change that has to happen. So you've got people who are no doubt you talk to really big companies. You've got tell us about some of the your portfolio of you don't have to specifically speak about the companies themselves, but tell us about some of the examples.
Yeah, well, put it this way: 3 of the big companies that I work, they're all got over 5,000 staff members. Yeah. So there's a lot of people there, but it's working with the senior management because what I found is that when you're working in toxic environments, the senior management, they're either encouraging it or they're ignoring it. But at the end of the day, they're actually responsible for it. And the only way you're going to implement any type of change moving forward is with their support. If they're not supporting it, it's not going to happen. And I'll be just wasting my time and wasting everyone else's time. But one of the big selling points is actually to show them how much money they actually lose on staff turnover.
Sure. My gosh, if you're constantly training people, and then you're not fixing the problem because you're constantly training people.
And all errors have a cost associated with it for having to redo, fix, whatever the case may be. Right. So you're looking at a minimum $100,000 per person.
Well, that's a number somebody should be paying attention to. Of course, you're talking about a larger corporation than maybe a smaller one, but you know, what you're speaking of applies to small businesses as much as the Fortune 500s. Clearly, if you've got people, if you're hiring people, you know, you kind of need somebody to keep their finger on the pulse with, managing personalities and, and who's managing those personalities and how they're managing those personalities and where do those personalities, which I'm saying personalities, but people, where do they go for support? Because it can be really intimidating out there if it's your boss who is the one who's got that toxic behavior and people, listen, it might be you. You might be the toxic one, not you, Ray, but I'm talking to you out there.
I have been, don't worry.
You might be the toxic one that needs to check in. And so we have to get to the root of the problem, which is where your psychology comes in. And then the mindset that you work out on helping them change. So let's talk about some of that. You've got some micromanagement issues that go on. Then, the trust is absent there. And so they're having to micromanage people. And nobody likes to be micromanaged.
Feedback's great.
Yeah, feedback is great.
Good or bad is great, but not micromanaging, because that can be very overwhelming and very frustrating. And like what I found is people leave jobs because of poor managers. And you haven't got the support of certain managers, they're just going to leave. There's no two ways about it. But one of the things is 90% of people who are toxic don't realize they're toxic because they've never been told.
Yeah. Nobody likes to be the one who's toxic, Ray. That hurts. It really takes a really special person to say, you know what? It's me. I'm the problem. And I have to work on things. I find when somebody comes to me, and I find for me, when I'm in the wrong, okay, I'm just going to keep it for me. Like, right, let's just talk about if I'm in the wrong and I can muster up the strength to say, I'm in the wrong and I need to fix this. I'm telling you what, it always works out. That I'm relieved.
Yes.
I'm relieved. I liberate myself. And I'm not feeling like a big dum-dum. I'm feeling like I'm the strong one in the room. And now I get to, work on that and get support from people, to help me work on whatever it is that what mistake I made that I need to learn by.
Yeah. I've always had, a general rule of anyone that I've worked with. I said, if you make a mistake, that's fine, because we'll fix it together.
Sure.
But if you make a mistake and try and hide it or try and blame it on someone else, that's when we're going to have issues.
Yeah.
Okay, because you need to be honest, you need to be transparent, and that's what makes a positive work environment. By having good behaviors in place, by having a code of conduct, by having ethics. And the more mature you are, and like anyone over 50, should be down that path where they know who they are, they know what they're going to accept in a workplace. And like some people might be there because they want to be there, some because they need to be there. But you don't have to accept toxicity in your life. You don't need that. And that's my big thing. If you don't need it, say something either internally with your own HR team or even confront your manager. If they're a decent sort of person,
Right.
they'll be okay about it.
Communicate.
That's the key. If you hold it in, all you're going to do is put internal pressures on yourself. You'll end up having mental health problems. You'll be so frustrated. It affects your physical health as well, because it builds your stress levels up. And so, and like at our age, anyone over 50, you don't want that your stress levels happening, because that's going to increase your chance of stroke, heart attack, other types of
illnesses, adrenaline, building up in your body, that fight and flight that really should be reserved, not for an everyday stressed out life, because you will break your body down. And whether it's that's emotional baggage. And I personally am convinced, I know somebody who has had through carrying something around like that, who from a certain point that I know it happened, 2 years later, they passed from an illness that I believe could have been avoided.
And that's one of the other things. I've read a lot of literature and have spoken to a lot of medical experts, and they actually say excess stress is actually one of the key causes of cancer.
Yeah.
And I thought that's unreal. So that's what I do. I try and take stress out of people's lives, take stress out of my own life. And we've known each other for a while now, or almost a year, I suppose. We've been talking to each other. So, and you're fully aware, like when I was 18, I was involved I worked in a bank as a bank teller, and I was involved in 3 armed hold-ups in about 18 months. And that caused undiagnosed PTSD.
For sure.
And like people don't really, when people talk PTSD, they're thinking about, the armed services.
I know, no.
But one of the negative habits that is caused by PTSD is toxicity.
Yeah.
And you don't know you're doing it because it's not been treated. Mm-hmm. So I did the right thing. My wife encouraged me, go and talk to somebody. And, this is one of the benefits of having a good wife. They tell you when you're wrong.
Trauma. You experienced trauma, and that made an imprint on you emotionally and created PTSD. When you have a toxic work environment, of course, you bring it home and you're emotionally drained. You can bring it home for sure when you've got the toxic lifestyle at work, and then you bring it home and you might take to the bottle, or you might take to other substances that aren't healthy because you don't know, the quick fix, which actually is not a fix. It's just a cycle. So we want to break it. And that's what Ray is here for. Ray, is there anything else you would like to share with everyone?
You don't need toxicity in your life. It's just not worth it. And it doesn't matter what your background, what your education. If you're in a poor work environment, just get out. Go find something else to do. I know it can be tough, and it can be tough to find a new workplace or whatever, but you just don't need it. Or say you either talk to your manager and try and get things to change, but if things don't change, it's not worth your health. Just get out.
Certainly, I believe what I'm going to do for folks is put up the suicide hotline. I'd like to put that together. Maybe you can help me with the Australia line.
I'll give you the number for Lifeline here in Australia. I've seen some really bad cases of PTSD, and it stemmed from bullying and sexual harassment.
Yeah.
And you just don't need that.
No,
just don't need it.
We don't need it, folks. We don't need it. So thank you, Ray. Stay tuned right there. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm going to put Ray's LinkedIn information in the comments of my Saturday page. And you can see my series, my guests come on Saturdays at noon. And listen, if there's something that you'd like for me to promote about your brand, your product or service. And like I said, if you speak to a more mature 50 plus crowd, maybe you have a project that you'd like to share with us, get in touch with me. Let's talk about living one day older and growing your business as we grow forward with time. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.